Okay, so I want to talk about they pierced my hands and feet. Let's get into this one. But before you say anything about that, I want to mention something that I've done
Go
some
ahead.
work with Dr. Kip Davis, Dead Sea Scrolls scholar, and he is pointing out to me that the score when the scrolls were found, they were given over to a bunch of Christian scholars, and these
It's
Christian
true.
scholars just said, "We're just going to be completely honest and unbiased." Well, look at this is what happened. This is a big deal, and I think needs to be talked about. And I was actually going to ask you. I think you should go and look into this because you're over in Israel and the scrolls are over there. I think you and your people should go and look this up. But anyways, there's a scroll fragment that literally because um, all of the Hebrew says that like a lion. It doesn't say they pierced my hands and feet. It just says like a
Right.
lion. I'm
Right.
going to let you get into that in a second. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Peter, I think his name's Peter. I can't remember his name. Dead Sea Scroll scholar, Christian. Um,
You know the guy from Canada you're talking about?
yes. He took
I
the
know you're talking the
scrolls.
professor,
He
right?
found a scroll fragment that was almost ineligible, and then said that he did his work
Uh,
unbiasedly, and said it turns out that it matches with the Septuagint version, which is the like a virgin. Now,
which is
Kip
the creepy
Davis
translation, right?
Kip Davis did an amazing job. Well, he took the scroll and he showed it and said, "Look, it doesn't say that. Not only is it ineligible, it probably is like a lion. It doesn't say you can't even see it, first of all.
Right.
Even a little
Right.
bit that you can see
So
looks
l-
like lion."
yeah. So let me help you. I have an entire chapter. I'm not trying to sell books, but volume 2 of Let's Get Biblical, I have a whole chapter devoted to this, and I name all the names, and I have the manuscript there for you to see. Okay. So this whole thing is a complete fake. So let's sort this all out. The, Psalm 22 was very important to Christians because in the Christian Bible, there are passages that are quoted from Psalm 22. And let's get like, what's Psalm 22? So you need to know this. King David is speaking. He's crying. He's got a lot of King David had huge problems. He had a son who wanted to kill him. He had friends who betrayed him. He had a wife that didn't respect him. He had problems. His father-in-law wanted to kill him. And basically, in these chapters, dialing it much, much earlier, he's saying that basically all my enemies are around me. And he compares them to lions, to dogs, to bulls. And that's what he is employing a metaphor of wild animals that are all around me. And this all brings us to the famous Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd. Why is this the most striking chapter in the Bible? Because King David says, ultimately, the Lord is my shepherd, and therefore I have nothing to fear. You comfort me. And the key is that we're supposed to learn from King David that even though lions are surrounding me, my enemies, dogs, okay. So it's somebody speaking in the first person about his own suffering. It's not a future prophecy. So when King David says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" in the beginning of chapter 22, so of course the Christian Bible is going to take that text, misappropriate, and put it in the mouth of Jesus when he's on the cross about to die. Very famously, the cry of dereliction in the book of Mark. And when they cut off his clothes and they parted it, so they use that because that appears in Psalm 22. But the idea that it says in Psalm 22, they pierced my hands and feet, for dogs have encompassed me, a company of evildoers have surrounded me. And then if you have a Christian Bible, it'll say, they pierced my hands and my feet. That sounds like crucifixion. But in Hebrew, it says Ka'ari, and Ari is a lion. So this is the Nachal Chever, right? This is the Nachal Chever scroll. Nachal Chever, people just just a little history. So the Dead Sea Scrolls, which was found in the 1940s, so that's in Qumran. In Qumran, we do not have Psalm 22, verse 17 in a Jewish Bible, 16 in a Christian Bible. I just need to make that point. In a Hebrew Bible, the verse counting is one later. So Psalm 22:17 in a Hebrew Bible is Psalm 22:16 in a Christian Bible. You just got to know that, okay? That text was not found in Qumran. There is a later text in the Dead Sea area, probably 30 kilometers from Qumran, so it's still in that region of the world, where a younger text is found called the Nachal Chever, which is younger. It was written between the wars. So there you have this it's not like Qumran texts that are relatively, not all of them, but the great Isaiah scroll, relatively easy to read. It's relatively uniform words. It's not that. It's just almost impossible to read what it says. Very, very difficult. So some characters so you have the word ka'ari, which means like a lion. If you remember, George W. Bush had a press secretary. He's a famous guy in America. His name was Ari Fleischer. You may know him, okay? Ari Fleischer he's a Jew, and he was George W. Bush's press secretary. Ari is a Jewish man's name. Ari means lion. Ko'ari, that prefix means like a lion. I mean, this is like really rudimentary words. So what they went and said is that the last letter is not really a yud, which is a very tiny letter, but it's rather a vav, which is more elongated. This is all fake because you would have to remove the aleph at the beginning, and the next word is misspelled in Nachal Chever cave. I illustrate this in volume 2. I'm not trying to sell books. I have a whole chapter where I go through all the manuscripts. It's all a fake. It's all a fraud. Here's the wacko one. Are you ready for this? Deep breath. If you're a vegan, this is not for you. If you've had anything today that has molecules in it for dinner, this is not for you. Do you know that this scam wasn't even thought up by the writers of the New Testament? It's never quoted in the Christian Bible. Do you know that if you can go through the entire Christian Bible and you'll never find this verse quoted? This is a later scam. This is a second century scam. That means the writers of the New Testament, whoever wrote it, it never dawned on them to misquote this text and mistranslate it. This is a later machination. This is a later dirty deal. This is a later false shuffle. This is a later shuffle from the bottom of the deck. Now, I need you, the viewer, to understand the ramification of this. In order to believe that it says that means really it said they pierced my hands and my feet. And the Jews are just so blind, and we just don't, that we change it to like a lion. You have to believe the following scam. You have to believe that the writers of the New Testament knew it said in Psalm 22, verse 16, that they pierced my hands and my feet, yet none of them, not Paul, not the writer of Hebrews, not the writer of the Gospels, not whoever wrote the letters of John, no one thought that that verse would have been important enough to quote in the Christian Bible. The most nonsensical verses are quoted in the Christian Bible. They have nothing to do with what the original, but it really said pierced, and the New Testament authors never thought of it. Now, what I'm saying now, if you're a Christian and you're watching me, this will blow you away because you're going to look this up because you won't believe me. You've been taught in church ad nauseum that this is a quote about Jesus. Well, then why did Matthew, Mark, and Luke quote it? And they're quoting Psalm 22. It's not like a chapter that no one knew about. They liked this chapter. That's how scammy this is. That means this didn't even make it in the New Testament because it wasn't thought of. No one thought of this in the first century. That's how insane this is.
Wow. So this is what happened then. So you get the New Testament gets written, Jesus is crucified. Now the church comes along and they're revising whatever Septuagint version they have at that time, and they're adding things that sound they're going backwards and they're retranslating the Old Testament to fit the
Exactly.
New Testament. So therefore they see a perfect opportunity. They can change the
Bingo.
word Koresh to or
Ko'ari, they could just translate Ko'ari as pierced. And then they have to do one other thing, make sure that no Christian school teaches Hebrew to kids. Make sure you talk Latin, a ridiculous language. Like, who do you need to speak Latin to? An Eskimo? Like, why are they teaching Latin? Look, Christians, this doesn't make sense.
You look at the church banning Talmuds, banning
Yeah,
Hebrew, banning Hebrew Bibles.
right.
You can see everything starts to add up after a while when you start looking at the stuff.
This is why I care about Christians. This is why, if you're a Christian, I care about you. and I'm not angry at you, and I understand why you might not like me. I don't care. I understand what's been done to you. You see, every Jewish kid, you go to Hebrew school, they want to teach you Hebrew. Now, maybe you learned Hebrew, maybe you didn't pay attention. If you went to a yeshiva, a real day school, Hebrew is a mother language, okay? The reason why they're cramming, they want you to learn Hebrew is because they don't want you to trust anybody. Here's the original language. They want to empower you. So you couldn't get away with this scam among Jews. Because even though we would produce translations, because there are people who convert to Judaism who just can't read Hebrew, we need to have them, but every religious Jew can read Hebrew. I mean, not like can read it, like you have a guy who took 2 courses of it. No. Like, bang, that's how we pray. I mean, we just can read it. So you can't get away with this kind of false shuffle with the Jewish people. And the church got away with it completely because its parishioners, they didn't have access to a Bible. Moreover, in the ancient church, as in the Orthodox churches today and the Catholic Church, these services are highly liturgical, which means that they're highly structured services, and the parts of the Bible you hear about are only what the priests read from the pulpit. That's from the lectern. That's it. There's no encouragement in the Greek Orthodox Church to go home and read the Bible. And if you do, you're just going to be getting, if you're a Protestant, you're just reading a King James or NIV, and you don't even know that you've been scammed, and you think the Catholics have been scammed because they don't read the Bible at all. The Protestants are the ones who have been scammed the most because they think they're reading it, and they're reading a scam translation.
Point. So that is awesome. We just demonstrated 2 huge examples of parts of the New Testament that were, parts of the Old Testament that were changed by the church. For example, Alma, meaning young woman, gets changed to virgin, and then you got they pierced my hands and feet, which really said like a lion. So, I mean, you could go to any pastor in a evangelical church, King James only church, and you'll say, what's the pure Old Testament in Hebrew? They'll say the Masoretic text. They'll all say that. It's like, okay, now if that's the case, then why does it say like a lion in Alma? How do you answer that? And they'll say, oh, you're just looking at it too much. Stop doing that. Stop. I'm not kidding. This has been my experience. This is how I left my church.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ועת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא